Okay guys, Mike from Boyer Bows. Alright, here's where we are after our time at the Las Vegas archery range. You can see the bow is looking a lot more symmetrical and a lot more streamlined than it was before. If I were to call this a particular type of bow right now, this is a home guard bow as opposed to the Mulgabet. Why? There is a difference. I had to do some research on it, like I said, and just to go over that again, because I misspoke myself in the video a little bit. If this is the handle, a Mulgabet gets out real wide, stays real wide, and then tapers back in to a very narrow second half of the limb. The wide part would be the working limb, the bending part, and the narrow part would stay much thicker and be the static part, or the non-bending part. I went to a museum website where the home guard bow, the one that was discovered and dated to about 7000 BC, was on display, or pictures of it were on display as well as the remains. And what that bow looked like was what this looks like now, more or less. It was you had the handle, you had it come out, and it almost looked like a pyramid bow. But, excuse me, but when you looked at it from the side, it had the handle, it had a very thin working limb that faded out into a very thick static limb. So it was basically the same idea as the Mulgabet, but the Mulgabet came out later and kept the working portions very wide and then really tapered and narrowed that limb. But right now, this is kind of what a home guard would look like. But we're not making a home guard. We're making a Lakota style longbow. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to taper this in even further. I'm going to narrow this area in even more and still keep a tapered or almost pyramid design until I get to the static area, which is going to be, of course, the thicker piece of wood in profile, but it's going to stay pretty narrow here. And then I'm going to reflex the tip and bend it backward, almost like a recurve, but not quite that far. So that's the next step. What I'm going to do now is, aside from streamlining this bow a little more, is I'm also going to reduce the working portion of the limb to a much thinner thickness, so it's already starting to bend. Right now this thing doesn't bend at all. This is as solid as a piece of steel. Well, you know what I mean. And or as unbendable in my hands as a piece of steel would be. And so I'm going to reduce this until it starts to bend. Then I'm going to get this static portion in a jig and recurve it, or reflex it. But first I have to do some carving. So I will do the carving. I will come back to you when we're ready to put this in the jig. Alright, that's it. Mike from Boyer Bows. If you have any questions, I know this was a little more vague because I don't have actual measuring dimensions. I do this by eye. There are no dimensions. You could stop here and start the next portion, which is to reflex it. You could, take it real narrow if you like them real narrow. There are no rules here because, to be honest with you, I don't know what the dimensions of a true Lakota bow is. I'm doing something I think is Lakota style based on pictures I could find on the internet. Anyway, that's where we are. I'll come back to you in the after shot, and then we'll start bending some wood. Alright, it's Mike from Boyer Bows. Please ask questions. I'll talk to you soon.